It is the WAV, 97.9 WHAV. And in the studio with us is Melissa Lewandowski, candidate for Haverhill City Council Ward 4. Melissa, good morning to you.
Good morning to you. It's an honor. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. If you could just scoot up a little bit closer to the microphone, that would be a wonderful thing. Time's a little tight, so we ask you to keep your answers somewhat short. How long have you lived in Haverhill?
Lifelong resident, born here in 1971, lived here ever since in Riverside, made a home from my old grandparents' home, actually, so it's been lovely.
And your day job?
My day job is that I am a litigation attorney in the juvenile and probate courts. I represent children in child abuse and neglect cases, so-called termination of parental rights trials, and I also do guardianship work and appeals work.
All right, in one sentence, why do you want to serve on the city council?
Well, to make a difference. I mean, why else do you run for office unless that is your goal, to make a difference? I think that for me, it's about making a difference with meaningful work. Political office is just an extension of my life's work. In that regard, I've been a contributor to civic organizations even before I held office because I like being boots on the ground, showing up, answering the call, doing the work. Had some successes in moving some items forward while I've been on council, but there's an opportunity, obviously, to do much more, and I aim to finish what I started.
There is a perception in some quarters that Haverhill is building too much housing, putting too much stress on water, sewer, and schools and public works. On the other side argues that the laws of supply and demand suggest building more units will eventually bring housing costs to more reasonable levels. And in no more than a couple of sentences, who's correct?
Well, I think that we've seen that building has not brought more affordability. Not necessarily building smarter might, but, building is just putting a strain on our infrastructure. My record has been clear. I have voted against building that impacts our residents, congests our streets, has a negative effect on peace and quiet, affects habitat loss, strain on schools, etc. Haverhill has done its part. We don't need unaffordable rentals anymore. What I'd like to see is senior housing similar to what they did with the YMCA in Methuen, where they had particular senior housing for 55-plus demographic. I'd also like to see conversion of some of our buildings that we might be able to identify as surplus properties that are blighted or abandoned into like rehab projects where we can build there and not expand on the footprint and put further strain, but also provide a housing option.
So the next question kind of follows along with that. In any event, affordability of housing, a major issue in Haverhill, as it is across the country. And what can the city council do to promote more affordable housing?
Well, I mean, I, along with a lot of my colleagues, are interested in home ownership, not rentals. We need a combination of state and city funding, in my opinion, to allow nonprofit developers to build homes. We need to advocate with our delegation to fund that more aggressively so that we can do that. We have to fund our affordable housing trust so that nonprofits can tap into that to build. I think that we can work on expanding the partnerships that we have with local companies that provide revenue to fund such projects. And then again, identifying potential city-owned properties that we might be able to identify as surplus properties and maybe get a housing choice designation with the state that then allows state funds for us to be able to build as well without impacting other neighborhoods and just working with what we have. Those are things that we can do. It's difficult because we have to move forward with housing solutions, but we also have to really keep an eye on quality of life issues for our residents, make sure our streets aren't overburdened, make sure our schools aren't overpopulated, and that we can still provide essential services to everybody in the city.
Looking to transparency, the death of Francis Gigliotti while in police custody and the death of Officer Caitlin Tully have left the public looking for answers, especially in light of changes at the top of the police department. Do you think the public has a right to know more, and how quickly, and what types of information do you think is properly withheld?
Yes, the public has a right to know, of course they do. as I mentioned, in my line of work, I work with traumatized children, right? And imagine the degree of uncertainty that a child has after a traumatic incident. What happens next is very often the next question. So I think that, we had in our community twin tragic events that rattled the community and a department, and people are seeking answers, understandably. There are legal considerations. One is that we have privacy laws. We can't share personal information, including, contract and employment contract details. And, of course, we have a confidential investigation that's been started by the district attorney's office, not yet complete, and we can't share details of that investigation, evidence, witness statements, anything that they're reviewing. What can be shared, in my opinion, is general information, date, time, location of incidents, facts and circumstances surrounding those incidents, overview of what an investigation entails, what is the scope of it, and most importantly, in my opinion, I think that we need to be better on progress reports and timelines for the public so that they get a sense of when this started and when we think it will be finished. I think that we could make information more readily available and more clearly available to folks through online portals or even our city website, so forth, just modernization of that particular process, because it will build public trust. People don't need you to hold their hand in the dark, but every now and then they need a flashlight, and I think that we can provide that a little bit better than we have been.
Many residents complain about a sharp rise in property taxes, keeping in mind such factors as inflation and voter-approved debt exclusions to pay for new schools. Do you believe, and pick one, that residential property taxes are too high, too low, or about right?
Well, too high. If people are hurting and they can't afford to stay, then the answer is that they're too high, right? We need to ensure our taxpayers can continue to live here. This year, we saw an increase that, the debt exclusion made up the majority of that increase. There were other factors, of course, employee benefits, general inflation, not getting enough funding from the state. But going forward, we can't allow our property taxes to be our out. It's just not sustainable for the long term. There are solutions that I think that we need to be better at. We need to build our economic sector a lot more aggressively. We need to shave costs off of larger line items in the budget, which is something that I suggested during budget season. We need to revisit our tax credits frequently to see if we can offer further hardship relief for folks. I think that we need to increase our grant funding aggressively, as well as our advocating for more state funding. We need to cut wasteful spending and be smarter about when and where we spend our money. Something that I like the idea of is a possible enterprise fund, which is a performance standard-based look at where we're spending our money and whether or not we're getting a return on our investment, because that's what people want to know, right? Like, is my money, am I getting a return on what I'm investing? It's like a separate financial accounting to track the cost of providing services, and it just provides, I think, transparency to know when and how your taxes are being used.
And while the City Council has a little power to change city spending line items under Haverhill's strong form of government, the strong mayor form of government, it can make cuts in almost any area. And assuming that there's no waste, fraud, or abuse, what specific departments, if any, would be your top candidates for cuts?
Well, I mean, you hear from residents, please keep Haverhill affordable, and we need to make sure that people can afford to stay here and the families can afford to grow here. To alleviate an increase in taxes, though, where do we cut? What services do we start providing? That's the question. Police, fire department, teachers, city departments that are already thin, these become safety issues, right? So we need to pay closer attention to where we might be able to save money. Look at those, like I said, bigger line items, some capital projects or equipment that can wait, sending out more RFPs and hopefully getting back ones that are more reasonable cost-wise, getting more state money and increasing efforts for improvement grants, I think, are the way to go. We need to also increase, as I said, our economic sector. I recently was appointed to the board of directors on the Greater Haverhill Foundation, and that's one of their goals is increasing economic growth in the city. And I'm really looking forward to diving into that because I think that will hopefully alleviate some of the tax burden on folks.
All right. And how can people find more about your campaign?
Well, I have an active Facebook account, Melissa Lewandowski, as well as Melissa Lewandowski, Haverhill City Councilor on Facebook. And then I have a website, Melissa4, the number 4, Haverhill.com. You can go on either of those to learn more. You can call or email or catch me at Casablanca picking up a burrito and we can have a chat. Whatever works. I'm here to listen.
All right. Well, thank you, Melissa, and good luck in the election.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
All right. Melissa Lewandowski, candidate for Haverhill City Council Ward 4, our guest this morning here on the WHAV 97.9 WHAV. It is WHAV 97.9 WHAV, and in the studio with me is Guy Cooper, candidate for City Council in Haverhill's Ward 4. And Guy, good morning to you.
Good morning, Wynn, and thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure to have you here, and it'll be interesting. Well, we asked the questions to all the candidates, and time's a little bit tight, so we ask you to keep the answers short as you can. First question, very simple one: how long have you lived in Haverhill?
So I moved to Haverhill. I'll be 57 this year. I moved to Haverhill when I was 11 years old, so much over 45 plus years. I lived in Haverhill, and where I first settled down was in the Riverside area, actually on Claremont Ave.
And what's your day job?
My day job now is a retired police officer, very proudly, I should say.
And in a sentence or two, why do you want to serve on the city council?
Exactly. Nothing has changed for me. My stance has always changed. The reason I want to run for city council is I want to continue my civic duty for the city of Haverhill. Haverhill is my home, is what I consider my hometown, and I want to continue serving the citizens of Haverhill in that capacity now.
And as far as the questions go, there is a perception in some quarters that Haverhill is building too much housing, putting too much stress on water, sewer, schools, and public works. And the other side argues the laws of supply and demand suggest building more units will eventually bring housing costs to more reasonable levels. In no more than a couple of sentences, who's correct?
I can't say either one is correct. I can definitely say that everybody has their opinion on it. For me, as I've said, and I've said many other times before, if people out listening haven't heard me say it before, I have said that I think Haverhill, I believe in housing, I believe in growth, but growth with a purpose. The growth that we have now, the apartments and the buildings that are going in, they're not very affordable for people at this point. And also, as we now know, there's a very big strain on our infrastructure, and I think we need to take a really close look at the building of that. But again, it's not going to stop, but we have to do it with a purpose at this point.
In any event, affordability of housing is a major issue in Haverhill, and as it is across the country. And what can the city council do to promote more affordable housing?
Well, I think we have to push the builders that do come in when they do build, no matter what multifamily places that they're building, and we have to have an idea of exactly what they want to charge for rent or for lease for those property areas. And I think the city can put I believe they can put some type of a limit on having an idea of what your out cost will be when you're completed to what you're going to rent or what you're going to lease, and what it's going to cost a person to rent or lease those spots. I think that should be something we should look at first.
Looking to transparency, the death of Francis Gigliotti while in police custody, and the death of Officer Caitlin Tully, they've left the public looking for answers, especially in light of changes at the top of the police department. Do you think the public has a right to know more, and how quickly, and what types of information do you think is properly withheld?
Well, I believe in 100% transparency, and that's what I'm about. I do believe that during, as my profession, as investigations go on, I do believe that the public should know of what's going on, whether it's a no answer is not any good, or being silent is not going to help us. But at least an update, whether we don't have answers right now, or at least a little information that the investigation, when it's closed, at least that part of an information to release, because people they do want to know, and I do believe 100% that we should be telling them what's going on, or even that the process is still moving on. But I think the silence is very hurting. And I do believe that everybody needs to know everything that's happening.
Many residents complain about a sharp rise in property taxes, and keeping in mind such factors as inflation and voter-approved debt exclusions to pay for new schools. Do you believe, pick one, residential property taxes are A, too high, B, too low, or C, about right?
Because of inflation, we'll take that into effect. Inflation, the price of everything's going up. I do believe now, though, again, being a taxpayer in the city, like everybody out there, I do believe that the increases so suddenly and so quickly over the last less than 2 years puts an extreme pain in your pocket. And we're going to have to raise taxes at points. But to raise it over limits, a debt exclusion to build something, you vote for it. Let's use that money for what it's actually intended for. But to just keep raising taxes to try to pay for things that the city is over budgeting for and trying to rely on the taxpayer, I don't think is fair.
And one final question. While the City Council has little power to change city spending line items under Haverhill's strong mayor form of government, it can make cuts in almost any area. So, assuming there's no waste, fraud, or abuse, what specific departments, if any, would be your top candidates for cuts?
I would have to say, I think Haverhill, from my knowledge and from being retired, I think the city in general is understaffed everywhere. So that would be a very tough question to answer unless looking at the actual budget and what we have. But personnel and things that the city has, I actually think that we are a little bit behind in that. I can't see making cuts of that nature right now. The city, the infrastructure, that can't handle a cut in that sense.
All right, and how can people find out about your campaign?
They can go on my Facebook page and my Instagram page, and also my website is guyforhaverhill.com. I have my personal number on there. You can reach out. You can send me an email through there. You can contact me through the website, and I am more than happy to answer as many requests and questions that I can.
All right. Well, Guy, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Wynn. I appreciate it.
All right. Guy Cooper, candidate for Haverhill City Council, Ward 4, our guest this morning here on the WHAV, 97.9 WHAV.
Wake up with Wynn Damon, weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. on 97.9 FM WHAV.
Catch the wave, WHAV.